at this time of year it can sometimes be really tricky to decide when to plant, and at the moment I'm planting a lot of brassicas, and although brassicas are hardy, you know, they don't mind a frost, as young plants they really don't like it if that frost arrives within a few days of them coming out of their grow room environment. They're currently growing in the conservatory. It's not going below about 10 degrees centigrade at night, and so they're pretty pampered. And if you put them out, you know, outside, then they would just be gone. You know, there'll be no chance. You know, just the wind and the rain and the hail and the snow at this time of year, you know, they just wouldn't survive. But if you put them, like I do, in a cold frame environment, then provided I can keep the wind off them for a few weeks, and that's no problem really with the cold frame, and provided I can keep them frost free for probably about 5 days, then they'll gradually adjust to the colder weather. And so right now that's what we've got. We've got about a 4 or 5 day window without any frost. So I'm going to get them planted out. They're at the right size. They're kind of, you know, probably a bit root bound perhaps now, and I want to get them out. So I've got no space under my grow lights anymore, so I want them in their natural environment. It's going to be pretty rainy, pretty horrible for the next few days, but at least it's not going to be frozen.
So, as some of you might know, I'm working on a little gardening book. It's an ebook, and I've got quite a few of the growing guides written now. And the one that covers this particular topic is growing brassicas for the hungry gap. And in this guide, I go through a bit about the hungry gap and growing veg in general for the hungry gap. It's got lots of embedded videos in here. Talk about the traditional approach of growing brassicas for the hungry gap and how we've extended that. How to use grow lights to help you, but everything can be done without grow lights. And then I go through what I consider to be the hungry gap stars, all the different varieties, and when to sow them, what the benefits are, and all of that sort of thing. And they're in order of my preference. And then I do take you through month by month then, what to do in June, July, etc., all the way through until the actual end of the hungry gap, which is basically July, when everything is in abundance. Provide a nice little summary here of the sowing times and harvest times, all of details of my recommended varieties, all linked through to my Airtable database. And all of the associated videos, of which there's quite a collection on the hungry gap, since this is one of my favourite topics. So there you go. So if you just take a look in the description of the video, then there'll be a link and you can take a look.
So all the little calabrese I planted in the polysol, they're all doing really nice now. They've all settled in, no problems at all. Down here, the little Brussels sprout plants that I planted just for some early leaves, they're okay. A little bit of discomfort showing on some of those leaves, but they're going to do fine. So these are the ones I'm going to plant now. Now, as I said, these are sprouts, Brussels sprouts. A variety I've not grown before, Long Island Improved. I got these because I could get a large number of them very cheap, and because I effectively sow these a bit like a lettuce really, so as a cut and come again crop, not to be harvested with leaves this size, but for leaves to be harvested at about 6 inches sort of size, and harvested in about, you know, late April, May through to early June sort of time frame. And then I'll clear the bed and plant them with, plant that bed with something else. And I'll have some more successions of Brussels sprouts as well for the same purpose, to grow for leaves. I've read somewhere, and I can't find the source now, that Brussels sprout leaves are one of the healthiest things you can eat, and we certainly love them. They're just so incredibly tasty. Everybody who likes Brussels sprouts likes Brussels sprout leaves, and a lot of people who don't like Brussels sprouts like Brussels sprout leaves as well. And so let's get them in. So the cold frame that I'm putting them in is this one, and it did have lettuces in it this morning. I've just done the harvest actually, and they'd basically turned to slime, which is extremely unusual, so I'm not exactly sure what went wrong with those, and to be honest I don't really care. I'll just get on and get the bed replanted and not worry about it. I think it was a freak. So I've just tidied up the bed. It did have a bit of green mould on it, so I've just ruffled that up. I've not taken it out, but that's the thing with green mould. If you just ruffle it up a bit, then it kind of disappears, and just keep on top of that, and it can't really get established. I've dibbed the holes with my little dibber, and I've not composted or put any amendments down because there's plenty of goodness in the soil at this time of year. I've just watered the holes with a dilute solution, just a couple of capfuls of each, of seaweed emulsion and fish emulsion, so that'll just give the plants a little bit of a start. And in this bed I'm putting cauliflowers, but they won't be ready for another week, so I'll look for another time window when I can get those planted. But I'm only putting 5 cauliflowers in here, and they're not quite as far on as the Brussels sprouts. So as you can see, the density is very high. Not all the plants will take at this density, so hopefully at least 2/3 of them will grow into really strong plants, and I'll just take the others out because there's plenty in there. And hopefully by about April I can open this lid up, and they'll grow away really well. So these plants have been under grow lights for about 6 weeks, and are looking really nice. Oh, look at that. The root system on that is fantastic. Very nice. And as I said, they are now a bit hot bound, so I'm pleased to be getting them in the ground. I did the holes about the right size for them, although I might just benefit from this being eased a little bit. There we go. And yeah, so let me just talk about growing Brussels sprouts for leaves. This first succession is just truly for leaves, because this bed is needed in June. It's going to be New Zealand spinach, and as a result the plants won't be able to grow on to give us any other harvest. However, the ones that I start in February, those will get planted out in March, and they're a different thing altogether because they're going to be in the bed until August. In July the sprout tops start to form, and that's brilliant because we absolutely, although we love sprout leaves, we like sprout tops even more. And that's the beauty of planting at this ridiculously high density. You actually get, I don't know what I'm planting in here, 25 plants I think. You actually get 25 or thereabouts sprout tops, maybe not quite that many, maybe 18. And if you love sprout tops, then they're like little cabbages basically. They're absolutely gorgeous, incredibly tender and just fantastic. So you've basically been harvesting the leaves for ages, then you get the sprout top, so basically you get a cabbage harvest. And then as soon as you take the tops off the plants, at that point it stimulates the plant to produce actual Brussels sprouts on the stems, and so in late July, early August, you actually get Brussels sprouts, and by sometime in August anyway, it kind of depends on how things go. At that time you will clear the bed, and that's then a good timing to put in your autumn lettuces. So that's what's going to go back in, not in this bed as I said, because this bed's going to be cleared in June, but yeah, early lettuces. So I think it's really I think it's probably my favourite crop of all crops, all the brassica crops. It's just incredibly versatile. 3 separate harvests from the same plant, and an incredibly prolific harvest, and a harvest at the time of year when you really want it, because we're all short of brassicas in May and early June, and so it's just amazing to have this prolific harvest at that time. Now the cauliflowers are a slightly different story. You can plant cauliflowers, actually. Snowball is a very good variety for this, quite densely. However, they're not the perfect plant to plant densely at this time of year, because they really need a lot of space to form big heads when planted in early spring. And this is interesting because I thought I had enough plants, but I don't. But anyway, back to cauliflowers. So with the cauliflowers, I'm only putting 5 in the bed, and as I said, that's the sort of density that you need in order to get a really nice harvest at this time of year. You could plant them a little bit denser later on in the year when there's a lot more sunlight, but you're still going to, the denser you plant them, the smaller the heads. So with cauliflower snowball, you're probably going to get snowball sized cauliflowers if you do that. So there we go, lots and lots of sprouts, and I'm going to see if I can find some more. So the wind's picking up now, and so these are going to be very grateful that they're going to be under cover. The ones I planted at the back are fill basket, and they're a vigorous, large growing one. So they're the ones we plant for our main crop, to be harvested in winter. But these Long Island Improved, these are a dwarf variety, so they won't grow very high. So yeah, I'm pretty pleased with these. They look quite nice. It is a kind of, when you're doing things at this time of year, it's a little bit risky. I've got spares. I've got I can fill another bed with these if I did lose them, so not to worry. But I'm very pleased with the way they've gone in. They look really good, really nice and healthy, and yeah, I'm looking forward to getting back there and doing those cauliflowers, but that's a job for another day. So I've just closed this bed up. I've just put a little vent in here just so it doesn't get too excessively damp, but basically it's going to be 100% humidity, I think, over the next few days anyway, so it probably doesn't matter overly much. So I hope you like this quick video. My name's Steve, this is the Seaside Allotment channel, and I'll see you soon.